Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming along this morning to this event, which is Shaping Data Standards for Future Cities, an event, a collaboration between colleagues from BSI, from the Urban Big Data Centre, where I'm from. We're hopeful that the event this morning is going to be really successful, offer an opportunity to hear many different perspectives around the issue of standards and how they can inform and help us develop our city infrastructure. I'm going to offer a little bit of a welcome, an introduction, and a wee overview of what the Urban Big Data Centre does. I'm not going to take too much time because I'm conscious how packed the programme is with some fantastic speakers, and I'm sure you're all as keen as I am to see them and hear the things that they have to say. As I mentioned, my name is Andrew McHugh. I'm the Senior IT and Data Service Manager at the Urban Big Data Centre. So we've been developing an increasing interest in the sort of standardisation agenda across a number of different areas. We'll hear about many of those things in the course of today. And indeed, later on in the agenda, we hear from the Director of UBDC, who will offer a perspective of some of our research activities and how they sort of integrate with that overall agenda. So today's programme, we've split into two sort of main parts. The first we'll look at shaping standards. We'll hear from colleagues at BSI about the process of standardisation, and we'll hear about how people can get involved in that process. We'll hear too about some of the existing activities that are going on within BSI and within the wider standardisation landscape, about how people are getting involved and how these things are being developed. In the afternoon we'll hear some more accounts about how standards are actually being used and where perhaps there are opportunities for standards to be used, where there are gaps that standards may help to fill. We'll hear from those administering standards, developing, informing, benefiting from standards. We'll focus primarily, perhaps our primary interest are in smart city and big data standards within UBDC, and we may touch on some of the wider aspects as well. Throughout, we'll really welcome discussion. We'll try and make this as interactive a session as possible. Obviously, we have a number of speakers. We'll try and find time, though, for questions to ensure that those who are participating can really kind of inform. And we'll try and take this forward as well and see whether there are opportunities and narratives that we can continue through ongoing discourse. Some practicalities, perhaps the most important one out of the way first, the Wi-Fi details. Some of you may have already got online. For those who have not, you'll find the SSID is called the IET. And then you should be prompted to provide a username and password in your web browser. So the username, I'm sure lowercase is important, so it's IET lowercase. The password is Cooper. And I'll maybe try and get this on a bit of paper somewhere as well for those of you who missed. I can see someone taking a photo of it. That's a smart idea. The session will be being filmed, and also we have a photographer present that some of you might have seen already. One of the things to sort of say with respect to the filming is that you can hear that my voice is coming through the PA. It's primarily for the recording, really. So I would remind the speakers to ensure that they're using a microphone. And similarly, if we have any questions, we have some handheld mics that we'll pass around again, not necessarily for amplification within the room, but just to ensure that gets picked up on the recording. We have a couple of social media tidbits to mention too. The hashtag for the event is DSFC17, and Urban Big Data Centre's Twitter account is as you can see on the screen there. We have no fire alarms planned for today. In the event of a fire alarm, everyone should go down the stairs into the large square, St Enoch Square, outside Cafe Nero, I believe, and that is the arrangements, but hopefully we won't have to even worry about that. And there are toilets just through the door on the right here, and those are also accessible from the other sort of side room, which is where all the catering will be served as well during the coffee and lunch breaks. So I think that's all the practicalities. As I mentioned, I just wanted to offer a very, very brief overview of what we do within the Urban Big Data Centre. We're based at the University of Glasgow. We have a number of partner organisations, academic institutions that we work with, funded by the Economic and Social Research Council, to provide a research-driven data service for researchers from a whole variety of fields that are interested in addressing urban challenges. So we have a very active research programme in the University of Glasgow and within our partner institutions. And we run this national data service where we build data collections, we explore and seek to resolve issues surrounding the management and the accessibility and the usefulness of big data across a whole different range of different areas, united around this urban theme. We have services and resources that some of you may already be familiar with. We would hope to use this opportunity to shamelessly plug some of those as well and to encourage you to use our resources. In terms of the core research areas, really they do sort of run the full gamut of urban issues. So I'll summarise these here. As I mentioned earlier, my director, Vonu Dakuria, will offer a presentation later on dealing with some of these aspects in much more detail. But we've got issues around things like transportation informatics, GIS, spatial modelling. Housing is a big area within the Glasgow-based team, looking at the private rental sector in particular. Currently exploring ways that we can seek to better understand that sort of often misunderstood and rather opaque aspect of the housing market. Economic development and migration studies, education and literacy, social exclusion, and big data management as well. So rather sort of a meta discipline within our work is to actually look at the issue of how do we practically manage data. Again, this will tap into some of the issues we'll explore later on in the context of big data standards. My sort of role is more aligned perhaps with the National Data Service that we run. So we maintain and provide access to a range of open and safeguarded data collections which we manage within our own IT infrastructure. We facilitate users access to those, we license those data sets, and we seek to enhance and develop them with our team of data scientists at UBDC. Similarly, sort of a little bit further along the spectrum of sensitive data, we facilitate research use of controlled microdata, data that may, for example, include personal data, via a third-party safe haven partner called IDRIS, which is part of NHS Scotland and based in Edinburgh. Where we do a whole range of different analytics. So build, obviously, one of the obvious things about data is its value is enhanced and optimized when combined and linked. So we do a range of different work around that. So analytics, data capture, linkage, and producing synthetic data sets as well, often a useful substitute for data that's otherwise inaccessible or unavailable. And we continuously build our data collections too. So we have a data sourcing service whereby researchers or interested parties can approach us and having identified particular research problems or particular data sets that exist that are available, and we can actually go and we have resources and a remit to go and procure those and make those available and accessible to wider user communities as well. So this positions us well to have a very full appreciation of some of the challenges around the use of data, the challenges around getting hold of data, linking, making it accessible, and obviously some of those challenges are technical, but there are many others that are organisational, that are legal, and we sort of are actively exploring some of the implications of these and how to better understand and develop best practice approaches to facilitate their resolution. Some of the key data sources that we have are sort of reflect the kinds of things we do and the kinds of people that we work with. So obviously our research drives many aspects of our data collections, and we have in-house data programs, integrated multimedia city data project and the SUDS spatial urban data system, for instance, which are in-house projects whereby we've sought to build our own research data, or rather data sets to facilitate research. So IMCD, for instance, was a kind of a multi-method project based within Glasgow to collect data using a range of methods and to provide a kind of multi-dimensional picture of life within Glasgow. So incorporated a household survey. Participants were equipped with various sensor devices, including GPS and life logging, photographic data capture devices. We had an online information retrieval exercise in social media and using other sort of online multimedia sources. So combine all of these together to give this full picture of how life is lived within a city. SUDS is a project which started off, and this is one you'll hear much more about, started off exploring the development of indicators using the relevant international standard as a basis. We built a set of socio-economic and other indicators for a range of UK cities. We're currently developing that work further to look at the area of labour market accessibility and transit availability, and with a view to exploring other aspects too. We've sourced and acquired data from various commercial organisations, including Strava, which is an app that cyclists use to record their activities, from Zoopla and Nestoria, which are housing listing aggregation websites, from Twitter and from other companies. Blue Sky is a company from which we got some LiDAR data for Glasgow, again, to complement the IMCD data set. And obviously with local authorities and public and government sources, we've acquired a range of different data as well, often under open licenses, but similarly we've had some other negotiations where we can provide data with more restrictions too. So, I mean, to summarise in terms of UBDC's interest in this field, I mean, there's a number of aspects that perhaps brought us together with BSI initially, and that sort of kick-started the conversations which have ultimately led to today's meeting. Certainly the work we've been doing with urban indicators has been important. We've been working in an international setting in the context of the Research Data Alliance for some time around urban quality of life indicators, and the work sort of summarised there in our SUDS programme. That's also taken us to issues around metadata and data management standardisation. Some of my background is explicitly in sort of information science, coming out of that sort of data management, data curation community, and therefore I have an interest in how some of these aspects are being standardised, and we'll hear perhaps later about some of the big data standards that are currently on the agenda. Some of those are very much on topic with the metadata issues and exploring what we need to capture and how we need to describe to support the use and the optimal development of big data and associated resources. Smart cities obviously characterises a lot of what we'll talk about today as well, and a buzz phrase that's naturally at the heart of much of what we do within the Urban Big Data Centre. But these are sort of some of the points that we sort of hang our discussions around within this context. We'll hear a lot more about the specifics of what's going on in these areas today, and about some of the work that's going on that this agenda will ultimately support too. But that was all I really wanted to say as a very brief introduction. I'm more than happy to answer any questions anyone has about UBDC generally. Perhaps it would be more of an effective use of time to do so during one of the breaks, and instead I could probably just pass over to colleagues from BSI. We have, I'm not sure if Tim or Tom you're speaking. So first of all, we've got Tom Digger-Rogers who will speak about the standardisation in big data and really how BSI is working to develop these standards, some of the process, and I'll let you introduce it even further.